Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you for attending today. If you guys have seen this presentation before, I spent the past week or so updating it. So thank you for attending again. A little bit about us. So we are ConnectAI. We are based here at the Phoenix, Arizona. We have quite a bit of background in software development and marketing. Primarily what we had specialized in is we specialized in large scale kind of automated solutions. Developing this ConnectAI platform has been an endeavor of the past 5 years, but it's really taken kind of everything that we have worked on, specialized on in the past. So I had kind of my own software company for just over a decade. And this is kind of the end result of that. We specialized in software solutions for small and mid-sized businesses, especially focused on cybersecurity, anti-counterfeiting, and AI. And our executive team comes to you with a lot of experience in global business development and management, 20 years at Boeing. And below you can kind of see some of our clients over the years. But today, I want to talk to you guys about ConnectAI. And well, I take that back. I want to talk to you about the things that we work on at ConnectAI, but it's not necessarily about the platform itself. But today, what I wanted to do is today's dedicated to kind of a very fundamental approach to how to get found online. And really what I want everyone to get out of today is an understanding of what is the nature of getting found online and how do you correctly position yourself and what are your options. So, this is going to be heavily biased towards getting found online organically rather than pay-per-click. So, hopefully you guys find this interesting. So fundamentally, this is a series about driving, that we improve our web presence and Google rewards us with traffic, and the increased traffic does whatever it is that our site is for. Maybe that's filling out a form, maybe that's buying a product, maybe that is just informational. In any event, we drive traffic, or drive rank to drive traffic to drive revenue. And so the easiest way to get started here and to talk about this problem is to introduce this problem as if you were an entrepreneur, because it is the most common problem out there. And this story is shared among millions of new businesses really every year. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that you have an idea for a business and you want to sell something online. Maybe it's a product, maybe it's a service. So what do you do? Well, you buy a domain, you figure out the perfect domain, and if you've ever gone through that process, all the good names are taken, so it's a really challenging process. It is as challenging as picking the name for the company. Then you start a website, maybe you go through somewhere like Wix or GoDaddy with a nice website builder, and you spend weeks tweaking it and making it right. And it's a struggle because most people aren't skilled in that activity. But then after weeks, you launch and the whole thing is a flop. No one comes, no one buys anything, nobody shows up. So you wait a few more weeks, still nobody. And so what's the problem? Well, the website. It can't be the website. The website looks perfect. You've tweaked the text and the images. It says what you want it to say. And what this comes down to is really a flaw in the thinking. Even though you bought the Get Found Online package from GoDaddy, which was a package that a long time ago I even personally had been subscribed to, the flaw in thinking is thinking like this is a field of dreams. We tend to approach this problem as if we build it, they will come. But this isn't. This is the online space is a different space than a traditional retail space. There is no main street. People aren't just randomly browsing by. It is more likely that users will find your competition rather than finding you online. So the question you have to ask yourself is, let's correct this thinking, and let's say, if you build it, will they come? Not they will come. And let's think about this from the perspective of the actual user. How are they going to navigate all of the millions of sites online? And how are they going to navigate the thousands of sites that are like yours? How are they going to navigate your competition to find you? So that is really the essence of the real problem. The internet is chock full of amazing things, beautiful sites, marvelous products, pictures, articles, videos, the whole 9 yards, everything you could possibly want. But the problem is finding them. And that also gets to the heart of what the problem is here. The problem is the size of the internet and the size of the data. As of January 2020, there were, as you can see here, 1.75 billion websites and 360 million TLDs. TLDs are registered like globalchamber.org. That would be one TLD, or top level domain registration. There are 360 million of those. But there are 1.74 billion websites. Google claims to have indexed a billion. And in order to do that, it takes them in just the indexing. They don't download your images or things like that. It's about 100 petabytes worth of space. So if a normal consumer computer has, the newest ones have a terabyte, it is 100,000 of those. So it's big. It's really big, and that's just the text data. And every day, 4 million new blogs are created. So if you get a blog, now you have to remember, now there's this giant space of 4 million new blogs, and your blog just gets thrown in with a mixture. If you're tweeting, 500 million tweets. If you are posting on Facebook, people upload 350 million photos every single day, and they post status updates 2 billion times. Instagram, 100 million stories every day. And shockingly, although maybe not so shockingly if you know the scope of YouTube, every single day people upload 82 years of video. Now, this is a lot of data. If you were to just take the new data that is created in the process of creating blogs, creating websites, things like that, just our creative content, ignoring the videos, and just printed out what was added to the web every day, it would be about 8,300 miles tall if you print it out in standard paper and stacked on top of each other. Or if you lay it on its side, it would go wrap around the United States or go from one end to the next 3 times. So that's a lot of data, and that's the real problem here. It's so much data that companies like Google and search engines and also social media sites, which also need search engines, but we'll get to that in a minute. But search engines are really required, and search engines are automated classification systems. So they take all this information, and they're these giant electronic filing cabinets, and they file that information away in an automated fashion. There is not a person behind it. If you want to contest your rank with Google, there's very little that they can do to improve your rank of your site. They can delist your site, but there's not a lot they can do beyond that because these systems are all fully automated. There's just no way that they can index 100 billion pages like they have in their index and do it with a person or even a giant team of people. It's the scale of the problem has grown far beyond human intervention capability. So if we think about this problem as a data problem, like Google sees it, getting found and inside Google means that you get them to file you correctly. So getting filed away correctly means that they need to understand what it is they're filing. They need to understand how to search your site, how to read it, and how to most appropriately put you in the right box We generally call this SEO, or search engine optimization. But really, when you take away kind of the marketing hype and all that, what it really is the study of how data is filed, and how it's retrieved, how these automated filing systems work, and how do you get your site inside that automated filing system correctly, so you can be found. So that when somebody types in the keyword to whatever it is that you do, maybe you manufacture. Maybe you are a contract manufacturer, right? And you manufacture physical goods. You know, you have to show up when somebody does that search, and that means getting filed correctly. So taking away all of the marketing hype around um, what it is that is happening here, it's really a study of data. And the closer that we think about this problem in terms of the study of data, in terms of the study of how it's getting filed, uh, the easier time we're going to have understanding what all this technical jargon and this mumbo jumbo is. The real trick to improving that is to really understand the nature of the problem. And this is kind of what's missed a lot. Everybody wants to sell their special sauce, or their secret recipe, or their special way of getting this done. We pay a lot of money for marketing agencies to do this for us. But the easiest way to have a real grasp and to root your understanding in what's happening online now and even into the future, because there are going to be ways that this is going to change going forward. So the way to understand that is to understand that there's an arms race going on. That ever since search became something that helps your business make money, there have been people who have been incentivized to kind of trick this system. So search engines are at a constant battle. If at any point in time you were to ever go back to Google and the situation were to turn back to the 90s, and I don't know if you guys remember kind of the 80s and the 90s, we had search engines, but none of them worked. So nothing at all. No one search engine was better than the others. Everyone had their preferred variety. It was Yahoo, it was Alta Vista, it was Dogpile, it was Ask Jeeves. And we had all these because none of them really worked. And so what you had to do if you needed to find anything is try all of them. And maybe one of them would have something that you were looking for. And back then, we also didn't have great like a lot of things that we could do. So primarily, what we were looking for was just a lot of information. So these engines were doing way far worse at acting as like a lookup for an encyclopedia than today. Google really has branched out today and really understood the core of the problem. So if at any point in time the situation ever, Google ever went back to that, they would have no audience, nobody would use them, and all of their value would drop to zero. So that's the game that they're playing, and that's the stakes as they see it. So they're in an arms race between the black hat SEOs and actually giving them, having the right results displayed. If you're not going to pay to appear in their pay-per-click spots where they put you at the top, they are going to want you to be the best fit for the spot that they give you. So if that's in the top 10, then you have to meet all the criteria to be in that top 10. So what they have done is they've invested billions and billions of dollars in creating AI routines that actually go to your site and actually read your content and actually try to understand what it is that they are looking at. So you need content. They can read at about an 8th grade level, and they do grade you on grammar. So in order for your content on your pages, in this case, content just means, words, pictures, and the way that you've laid out your page. So if your pages need to be high quality, they have to be readable, they need to be a good length, and Google will then use their machine learning routines to read your page and try to understand what it's about. They'll try to extract their own keywords. So it's important to understand that. Now, the other thing it's important to understand is that when Google classifies a site, there's a huge amount of churn in the listings, which is why any of this can work at all. And the reason that there's a lot of churn is because there's a lot of things they're looking at. When you go to Google and you type something into that search box, we call that a query. And so your query is just one piece of the way that Google looks at that search. It's not just the query or the phrase that you type, but it's also the intent behind the phrase, which is the most important piece here. But also to take into account things like your location, whether or not the data needs to be fresh, and everything down to the device you're using, the time of day it is, the region of the world you're in, and all of these parameters. In fact, there's about 200 of them that for every single search that Google processes to really fulfill that search. So of those 200 parameters, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to figure out what they call searcher intent. What is the reason that you typed that, whatever it is that you typed into Google? And they break it down into one of four categories. Either your intent is informational, preferential or commercial, transactional, or navigational. And there's going to be a test at the end. So I would write these down if you want to pass. No, don't worry about it. I'm going to actually talk about each of these in detail. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, the first one is the informational intent. And so this type of intent comes when users are looking for information. We're looking for an answer to a question. And you can see that I've got a couple here. Who is Tim Berners-Lee? When do I need to file when do I need an IRS form 1040? How do I wash clothes without losing their color? And do cats like pancakes? So each of these, what this represents and what I'm looking for with this search is I'm looking for information. And so Google knows this. So what they do is they will bias my searches towards websites that give me information to satisfy the search. And in most of these, Wikipedia might be a great choice for a reference. But then there's the preferential or commercial intent. Now this happens when the user has progressed beyond the informational side of things, and now they're starting to evaluate options. So what's that look like? Well, you can see here, Honda versus Toyota. That's a comparison. So now we're looking to evaluate our options. Let's say we're trying to buy a car. Which vacuum cleaner is the best? Maybe we need a vacuum cleaner. We need to refine our set of things down to these simple set of choices. Maybe it's restaurant reviews. Maybe it is general queries, like where to buy a cheeseburger for your cat. At this stage, we're beyond the initial scoping, and now what the users are doing is they're looking at what their options are, what's best, right? Once you're beyond that, now what we say the user has buying intent. So Google will actually sell you, and depending on your stance, they'll sell you keywords at any of these. Whether at any of those stages, they'll sell you pay-per-click ads, but there's only one stage here really that they make a difference, and that's this one here. When you have this transactional intent, the users or the searchers are looking to make a purchase, and now they're no longer evaluating options. They've already done that. They're no longer looking for information. They've already done that. Now they're looking to take action. So this is where the queries get specific. Best price for Vans shoes. Where could I find? Are there any Dyson vacuums on sale? Is there somewhere where I can get a coupon for an Arctic cooler? where's the best place I can shop for NVIDIA graphics cards? So all these are examples of searches with the intent to buy. Now, the last category, so all of those can be seen in a sequence. The last category is somewhat of a funny category, but it makes sense. The last one is called a navigational intent. So if the user is intending to navigate to a specific website, it's usually quicker to go to Google and just type part of it in than it is to type www.linkedin.com/jobs or ESPN.com/March Madness/ what have you. People actually use Google as a shortcut. So, I know that I do this all the time, and it happens so often that it's a whole category of searches in and of itself. So if you're following with me, the question that you might be asking yourself, because at this point I would be asking myself, is why in the hell is this so difficult? And the answer is that humans are complex. Really complex. We do funny things and we don't pay a lot of attention. There's always a competition going on between sides of our brain, between the type 1 system, if you guys are familiar with Daniel Kahneman's breakdown of human information processing. It's always a battle between the type 1 and type 2 systems. The type 1 needs to make quick decisions, and the type 2 system makes the slow decisions, the thoughtful ones. So an interesting example is that if you were to take the top 1 billion search queries just by count, and you were to put them in a list, 90% of every search that occurs after that wouldn't be in those first 1 billion terms. In fact, the estimates are somewhere between 16 and 20% of all the search queries that are processed by Google on a daily basis, Google has never seen before. So they're brand new. And if you want another bit of difficult trivia, we have the bounce rate on sites, which means a user bounces to a site. If they go to a site and say, well, that doesn't really fit my criteria, and they leave within 30 seconds. So we call it the bounce rate. Now, the funny thing is, we always kind of assume that if a user bounces off the site, that they go back to where they came from. Nope. When we actually do a detailed studies of user behavior, users don't bounce off sites. They don't go back to the Google results page. So that is kind of the shocking part of that. When a user comes to your site and they bounce off, 83% of the time, they don't go back to the Google results. They go somewhere else in the web, somewhere else in the ether. So they just wander off. So humans are complex. And in order to make everyone happy and to satisfy these search queries, you need an equally complex approach. So we need some guidelines. And the guidelines are that, I'm going to give them for each, and some key guidelines for each of the major search and social platforms. And then, depending on the time, we also have kind of a theory section where I dig into this a little bit more. But let's start with the guidelines. So, knowing that Google extracts the keywords from your content, the guidelines are that it must be clear and understandable. It has to be written for a human. There's tricks that everyone used to use, like stuffing your keyword in your page. Hey, I sell shoes in Phoenix. Are you looking for shoes in Phoenix? I know the best shoes in Phoenix. We've all been to those sites. They don't read well. They're not written for humans. Those were written to try to trick the search engines, and Google can easily pick that up now. So it's important to understand that Google's actually reading these pages. If it can't read it, and it can't understand your content, it cannot catalog you correctly. And it's using automated systems. So you have to write in a way that systems understand. It used to be that Google placed a pretty high emphasis on the divisions of your sections of content. They don't anymore. They mostly disregard all of the tags that they see on your site. They're not part of what we call a schema.org, which is the little tags that we use to tell it what things are. Here I have a product page, here's my price, here's my reviews, here's my ratings. So it uses the section dividers to extract keywords, but there's not a critical ranking factor. So you need them because your page needs to be written for a human, and it needs to be written in a way that a human can easily understand. But beyond that, don't try to kind of over-engineer that aspect. Facebook itself, which is Facebook, is a search engine. How are you going to process 2 billion posts every day? So Facebook is a search engine. Facebook filters content and results. Facebook uses the Open Graph standard, which is, if you've ever seen these, those titles in HTML, like if you have worked on your site or someone else's and seen those are for Facebook. Well, Facebook and anyone else that uses it. There are other services that use this, but Facebook does not. It's not a Google, and it's not going to read your site. It's gonna make its job easier and read, use the Open Graph standard and read those meta tags. So to Facebook, the content of your page isn't as important, but they are absolutely measuring whether or not their users are satisfied, whether or not they bounce off of a click. For them, that is the most important piece. So when somebody clicks on the site from Facebook, Facebook doesn't want to show you if users are coming to your site and they're having a poor experience. So your site has to perform well. People have to want to see it. Twitter uses their own custom meta tags. It also doesn't read content, but when Twitter decides whether or not it's even going to show that URL that you post, it goes through a whole kind of vetting process. LinkedIn's a lot closer to Facebook. LinkedIn uses the Open Graph standard, so those meta tags are important. And it does the same thing. It measures traffic in the same way that Facebook does. So the real key to getting discovered, however, on Google is that you really want high quality and fresh content, right? Although LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook aren't judging your site based on the content, they're judging it based on whether or not their users bounce. And I mean, if there's any complaints filed or anything like that, whether or not they can get to it. So they're going to judge you on these parameters. So you still need high quality and fresh content. It still needs to be engaging, still needs to be well written and well structured. Now, Google will use it to file you, and the other platforms will use it to determine whether or not you have something worth visiting. This is not a process that is difficult. It's a process that is time consuming and requires a commitment. But that's the beautiful part is you can have this commitment with no money up front, just your own internal scheduling. So with that being said, we have the theory section here. Now, Doug, how much time do we have allotted for this?
We've got another 25 minutes and then we're going to close down. I think, ideally we'd love to have some time for questions. Normally this would be about the time we would move into questions, but how much more material do you have?
Let's see, probably another 15 slides. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, so we're not going to have really much time for questions. So sorry, everybody. But if you can go through it, I think one of the things, you've gone through kind of the higher level type information. Certainly, I think one of the things that will be very valuable will be, the concept of good content, right? We've always known that. So how do we take it to the next level? What's practical? Mm-hmm. I see people like they have a Wix website and they're trying to get content, and I shake my head. It's like, oh my God, that's that's a pointless exercise. Just why don't you just beat your head up against the wall every day and it'll be a lot less painful. So what are some of the key things that people really need to think about practically to do this, and be real? Sometimes it does take money. It's not just good content and time, right? Sometimes it's better to do, talk to a professional, and so if you can weave those things into the story, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually that's the purpose of this section here. So that's a great segue. So getting into kind of the theory about how this is done and really how to apply this to your website. And yes, it is, much easier to consult with a professional. There are many things to pay attention to. And although content's the key ranking factor, it used to be that just the standard SEO, optimizing the site, it used to be that was enough. Now the problem is that that's just a box you have to check in order to get to that phase where you can publish content. If you haven't taken care of that phase, then your content doesn't matter. So it used to be that was enough, and you would hire all these companies to make sure that your site was optimized. But now that's not enough. That's where you have to start. That's not where you end. So it will help us to kind of understand a little bit and break down the process of looking at these results and looking at how businesses are ranked and what are the important factors to consider. So this is just the standard breakdown of kind of a standard Google result. It can have a couple more areas. It can have those little pop-ups. Now, the side panel here is primarily reserved for what we call a knowledge graph. That's when you type something in like, who is Ruth Bader Ginsburg? On this right-hand side here, that content will pop up. It's called the knowledge graph. But we have kind of our knowledge graph areas. We have our AdWords areas for our pay-per-click. This central area is from Google My Business Listings. It's for local businesses. Below that, now we start to dig into the organic results. So even Yelp is organic, but you're going to have a really hard time if you have a service out-competing Yelp. They have you on Google measures expertise, authority, and trust, and Yelp has all of those, and you have to fight against that if you want to fight against Yelp. So even though they're not a competitor to your business in person, Yelp is a search competitor. So like I was saying about the SEO, it used to be that just taking care of the SEO factors. And this is really where the primary place, if you haven't considered these, a lot of platforms try to build these in. Something like a Wix will try to take care of as many of these components as possible. But they're highly specific, so these are kind of the parameters that a page has to meet. And once it meets those, now Google will read the content. But if for some reason any of these are broken, right, that's a mark against you already, and they're not even going to look at the page to look at your content. So this is now just a box that you have to check. So getting into really these ranking factors and what Google's doing, there's many ways that we can kind of break it down, but these are kind of the 9 big, broad, general categories. They look at your domain, is it trustworthy? Does it have history? Are there any complaints or reports filed against it? They have your page level ranking factors, which is there's just your content, the SEO on the page, and things like that. What they call a site level. Is it trustworthy? Does the content on the site represent what it is that you do? Are you a shoe retailer, and are you talking about, I don't know, the results of horse races? This is like the trust factor, right? If you're an authority, and you display your expertise, it's in whatever it is that you do. Backlinks are the next biggest thing. In fact, this is the single biggest ranking parameter. Trustworthy sites that have been around for a while tend to accrue links on other people's sites. If you are an expert at machining and the whole process of machining, other people are going to link to you because they're going to direct their users to the experts as they see them. So links to you from other sites and links out from your site to other sites. High quality sites and sites with expertise link to other experts. They look at user interaction. Does the page actually work? Is it broken? Does it work on mobile? Then here's where we just get into the special algorithms, the rest of those ranking factors. And then, of course, are you engaged in spam in either direction? Do you either host on your site or do you use spammy sites to try to list your site, your site? And then the brand signals are, is your brand a trustworthy brand? Are you associated with trustworthy things? So they take all of those into consideration. These are about the top 9 as we really think about them. And the other thing to kind of understand about what is happening here is there is a really sharp curve in search demands. So I think this was last year, so it needs to be updated, but as of last year, 92%, almost 92.5% of all searches and search queries have 0 to 10 searches per month. The average number is 989, but the median is 1.8. So there are lots of terms that just get a single search or a couple searches. So this is a problem that Google has. How does it correctly route a search it's never seen? And that's kind of how you have to think about it as well. And in terms of keywords, the keywords that have the highest traffic, the ones that have 10,000, 100,000, a million visits a month, that, so far as we can tell, those are 0.01% of all terms. So this is really all of the searches, and the vast majority of the search volume happens in what we'll call it the long tail keywords. Now, the users also are something that you have to take into consideration. 23% of the time, users just allow Google to finish the search for them. Yeah, less than 1% of people actually go to the second page to click on results. 65% of all searches end up with a click to the organic results on the first page. And 85% of Google users won't redo a search if it's not correct. Oh yeah, 50% of searches get no clicks. Somebody searches and decides it's not what they want. In terms of the search terms and the search space, people most often use search terms with 1 to 2 words in it. 1 to 2 words together represents about 2/3 of all searches. And if you look at, people don't like to type. So if you look at what they're actually searching for, the vast majority of, and so if you kind of break this down by volume, about 75 to 80% of all the searches actually occur with 5 to 10 characters in them. So something for you to think about. But the page, the content on your page, the amount of content on your page matters a lot to Google because they're using their algorithms to read it. And pages, this is as of 2019, so this needs to be updated a little bit. But you can see that the pages that rank the best have a lot of stuff on there. Google can figure out what's on there, what keywords to rank for, and then when people come in with all these weird search queries, Google knows how to route those. So you can see here that the top pages have in the 2,000 words page range, and these are 2,000 good words that are written for people, so they have proper divisions of the sections and things like that. You can see that it actually falls off pretty quick in terms of the average, search volume. And what we also find is that longer content generates more backlinks. So of course, the better and the more time you put into this, the better reference it's going to be. If you sell shoes and you write a treatise on how a hiking boot should work, that's going to get a lot more links than a short marketing piece about why you're the best, right? And got to have an image. So that's what this says. there's a very sharp fall off. You got, in order to be in the top 10, your pages have got to have unique images for the content they're talking about. So those are kind of the key elements. Those are the biggest ranking factors. And in order to get started, especially with content, what you really think about is you think about content in terms of the funnel. And when you're building pages or you're writing blog posts, you think about the content for your site in terms of this. We found this to be most useful. This little red area out here is what we call the awareness area, which means most people cruising around the web, on social media, don't know you exist, don't know they need what you have. Even if they need it, they don't know that they need what you sell. And they also don't know, where to, how to get to you, because they don't know your name. They're totally unaware that they're unaware. But if you are preparing content or writing content in an area that they are paying attention to, that's how you have to go wherever the attention is. So if, for example, what one of our clients that we really love to work with is a sources contract manufacturing, and their clients may not know that that's even a possibility. They may not know that you can source manufacturing runs for 10 things. They might think that you need to go with big 5,000, 10,000 unit orders from China, right? So what are they looking at? Well, they're probably looking at things like they're producing a product. So they're certainly looking in whatever the product area is. Maybe they're looking at import, export. Maybe they're looking at trading with China. Maybe they're looking at the US economy. Maybe they're looking at all these other things that if you wrote something there, you'd have a better chance of catching their attention rather than talking about contract manufacturing. So they will be ready for that later, but when they're in the informational phase, you really have to reach them where they are. So we say 7 out of every 10 pieces of content, whether it's blog posts or even pages on your site, should be in this awareness area. 2 out of every 10 should be in this consideration area, which is, once you've got their attention by talking about the economy, by talking about import, export, by trade relations, the things like that, you say, okay, well, have you ever considered that you could source manufacturing here in the US? It's relatively cheap and easy to do prototypes. We do them fast. We have a lot of equipment. It's not as expensive as you would think. And then finally, that's 2 out of every 10. 1 out of every 10 we say is in this conversion area, where it's just a direct sales pitch about you. And this advocacy area is, of course, once you have people, you need to give them reasons to come back and to remember you. So that's what we call the advocacy phase. And then, there's a whole strategy that you really kind of have to build around this. And this is the part where it's probably easier to work with an expert to help you establish this. You can do it without it. You certainly don't need this, but the most effective content campaigns are intentional. We have a saying in marketing that nothing goes viral anymore by accident. And if you have seen any trend, not an accident. I mean, just think about the biggest trends of the past few years. Those have all been started purposefully. The ice bucket challenge, that meme challenge where people would freeze in place. Those were all started by branding agencies intentionally for one reason or another. So good content and a good content strategy should not be an accident. You shouldn't be guessing. If you had to start from nothing, start writing about what it is that you're good at and displaying your expertise. But beyond that, it really pays off in very quickly to work with an expert on this. And then the expert's also going to help you along this content marketing maturity curve. They're going to help you if you've got nothing. They'll help walk you through this process, and it is a process. If you've seen the sites that do this well, they don't do it by accident. They do it very, very intentionally. And of course, the whole reason, and my final slide before a little bit of time for questions, is there's no more cost-effective way of, content is the most cost-effective way of getting a lead. And for some businesses, there's just no other option. If you sell a service or if you sell something that takes a lot of time for people to make a buying decision, pay-per-click ads aren't for you. Pay-per-click ads are for people who are buying products, who are ready to make a purchase, and who are in that phase where they're still considering alternatives. So looking back to our, they're not in the transaction, or they're not in the they don't have transactional intent yet. They're still in the preferential or commercial intent. This is where these work. And if you are have a competing site, it also works here for advertising specific products. Pay-per-click ad for a Vans shoe. If somebody types this in, is exactly what they need and what they're looking for. So you got to really think about what it is that you do, about how people are going to find you, about what sort of service it is, and how you're going to get to them. And the thing about content is it doesn't go away. So once you write it, it's there forever. That's why the cost per lead really drops down. So I think with that, I'm going to say thank you guys. Whatever time is left, I think we can dedicate some questions.
Great, thanks, Micah. I've sent a message to the participants. Probably we should have made this a room just so it would be easy to ask. But if you've got some questions, please type them in the room, or just ask to be elevated, and we'll get you up. I saw one from Trisha, and Trisha Lahane asked about if this is an ongoing series, and you actually have a couple more programs, and so maybe could you just spend a moment and say, what you've tried to accomplish today, and then what are the other two programs over the next couple weeks that you've got that we've got scheduled?
Yeah, so this is one of three in the series. This is our kind of our fundamental, our first course, and this is the how to get found online portion. This is all about what it means to get found online, and what question is it that we're trying to answer when we get found online. The next in the series is how to find new customers. What process do you as a business owner need to go through to reach outbound and figure out where the customers are and how to get them to your site. And the last one is, it's 3 of 3 in the series, is how to outrank your competition. So yes, that's a good question. This is 1 of 3. And there will be another 2 in the series.
Okay, and just kind of, let me take a step back and say each of the next Fridays at this time are parts number 2 and 3. And I think that then makes the third one on April 2nd. And I don't know if I saw Gloria in the room here. She's not in the room. She's putting together a marketing program, a social media series that starts with 3 social media experts on April 7th, and then goes deep diving into specific platforms like a LinkedIn program and a Facebook program and Instagram. So that's being developed, but the April 7th one is set, and so are the next 2 programs with Micah. So that's hopefully answers folks' questions regarding that. And I see Cesar's put in, I think the next one, the 26th, next Friday. Thanks, Larry, for your comment as well. How does this relate, Mike? Oh, sorry. Did you have something to add?
Oh, no, I just want to say that I'm just now reading the chat. Hi, Larry. Now I see you.
Oh, great. So how does this relate to ConnectAI? So tell us a little bit about, here's the series that you've described. And so what does ConnectAI, and how does this series connect with ConnectAI? No pun intended.
Well, yeah, thank you. So ConnectAI is a platform that revolves around getting you the right content. And so we help businesses to kind of offset the labor in that process. We specialize in every step of the content analysis, discovery, creation, and distribution phase. We can help you create web pages. We can help you create blog posts. We can help you create social media posts. And to us, we have a way of systematically going through that whole process. So we help you figure out what to talk about, and we help you figure out whether or not your users like what it is that they see. And once you post it, we use AI to help you follow up. So we apply AI in every step of the way in that content creation process, and we really help you create content that works. So we spent 5 years developing this, trying to find the best way to do this, and we think that we'd like to say that there's no better way. We think that we are the most effective platform available for doing this.
Okay. That sounds good. Who's your dream client? Who do you like to work with?
We have 2 ways that we operate. We have what we call our self-service mode, which is we just give you access to the ConnectAI platform. So really, in order to find the best benefit from it, you have to already be marketing. So once you're marketing, we can help you save costs and time by creating your content more targeted and more effectively. Once you have are engaged in marketing efforts, you have to be engaged in content creation in order to save that time. So mid-sized businesses or even small businesses that are actually doing content marketing, that are trying to post, that are trying to write blogs, and then the larger the business and the more you're trying to create, the more we can help. So ideally that would be enterprise digital agencies. We have a lot of those, but we're working with the political campaign right now on their messaging, because they need content. They have huge needs for content. We are working with agencies. We're working with large organizations, and we're really augmenting and making their marketing efforts and their marketing team more effective. So that's in the self-service way, and we also have full service, where we have teams. We have hundreds of writers, and so if you need content, we can help you actually and kind of take the lead in writing it. So all you need to do is review it and say, yes, I like this, and then we apply AI for all the rest of the pieces. We follow up and make sure that people like what they see. So thank you. I appreciate that question.
Okay, very good. And in terms of, I saw, Tricia, your question about the start time. It is the same start time, so 9 a.m. Pacific and Arizona time next week and the week after. So next week, then let's all gather back here, and then again next week we're going to be talking about what?
Next week is how to find new customers.
How to find, okay. Mm-hmm. How to find, and through the web, of course.
Mm-hmm. How to find them and get them to your site.
That's awesome. Will you be incorporating social media into that as well, or is it mainly website conversation?
This is mainly website conversation. We use social media in a very specific way, where we use ConnectAI to write the initial content, and then we use social media. We post to social media, to groups, to your personal page, and into targeted locations to harvest their audience. So we like to say that if you look at this problem in the way that Facebook looks at it, if you're going to build an audience on Facebook, that's Facebook's audience. They're just letting you borrow it. So we say, build it on your site and harvest the audience from Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. But build it sustaining, because it's your audience.
Thank you. We're come to the end of the first hour of the first workshop. Micah, you're amazing. Thank you for going through all of this. Really great framework. Look forward to the next. Any closing comments you'd like to make?
I think just in closing, this is complex, but it's not hard. But if you guys have any questions, please reach out. My contact information, you can get that, of course, from Doug. And if you've been struggling with this, reach out to a professional. We can help you, and we can really make a difference. So we can remove some of that stress, because I've been there too.
Fantastic. I'm looking at the calendar for next week, and it's another busy one for Global Chamber. I see we have 2 Globinars on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Wednesday, 1, 2, 3 on Thursday, and 2, including the one we've talked about with Mike on Friday as well. Monday, we have the Phoenix Metro meetup, and we have a really significant conversation about the impact of global women's leadership for the fourth industrial revolution. And that is a program that is a collaboration between Global Chamber and Thunderbird, and it involves one of Larry's clients, Luceo, that is an IT/SAP implementer based largely in Turkey, but also in the United States. And so we have a lady as one of the speakers that they work with, that's part of their team, who is a panelist from Slovenia. So I'm really looking forward to that, along with the 4 other panelists, 5 with Dean Sanjeev Kagram of Thunderbird leading that conversation. So we do try to do some interesting programs. Today's was fantastic. Really appreciate your expertise, Micah, and for sharing it with us. And I encourage everyone to look at the calendar next week for the multitude of events that are happening. Thanks, everybody. You all have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys all have a great day.